We are going over the 3 types of Instagram posts that actually get sales.
Okay, so there's 3 types of posts that are consistently going to turn your followers into paying clients, even if you don't have a big audience.
So here's the problem. If you have been showing up consistently, but still feel like you're shouting into the void, if your content gets saved, but your Stripe account doesn't seem to notice, or if you are tired of second guessing what to post and wonder why no one is converting, you are not alone.
The good news is you're not the problem. You're just missing structure. And once you understand the 3 types of content that actually drive sales, then you can stop creating random posts and start creating momentum. All right, so there's 3 main things that we're going to go over in this video today. The first is
the shift in content style that made me go from friend with good advice to trusted expert people pay to learn from. We're going to go over the kind of post that makes your dream clients feel seen and silently think, I want you to help me do this. And then we're going to go over the one kind of post that most people avoid, even though it's what turns attention into income. So I used to think that I was doing everything right when I was creating content. When I first started my online business, I was teaching, I was showing up, I was giving away value. My content was packed with tips and tricks, and I would get engagement and comments saying, this is so helpful, this was amazing, thank you. But I had no DMs. I had no application to work with me, no sales. And I felt like I was basically just building a library of educational content.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense because you've heard for years, post value, 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 and then you do it, and then you think to yourself, this is so valuable, why am I not getting anything back out of this? So that seems to be a pretty common thing. I've seen that a million times myself.
No, literally. And that's what I was doing. I was like, I'm being valuable. And then one day I got this DM from somebody who was like, I have so much of your posts saved, like they're so valuable, but I still have no idea what to do. And that's when I realized people have an overflow of information.
Yeah.
Like people have YouTube and ChatGPT and they have everything. They are drowning in information. And what they need is clarity and your expertise and your point of view and your guidance.
It's not just what to do, it's how do I apply this to my situation?
Exactly. And so when I teach this concept to people, I talk about educational content as being one of the 3 types of contents. But I want to explain what that means because it's not just providing tips and tricks like a lot of people think that it is. So here is what we teach our clients to how to get their educational content to actually convert. Okay, you need to teach less and you need to lead more. So instead of cramming every detail into a post, focus on one shift that they can make and make it resonate with them emotionally. Anchor it in a belief. So instead of just saying, do this, people are like, well, who are you to tell me to do this? Put your perspective on it, right? Say, most people say to do this, but here's what actually works. Tell them what works and then tell them how you learned it, right? That's how you prove that you're an authority. You're not just giving out random tips and tricks. And then give that context, right? So with whatever educational content that you are teaching, add a story, a client example, or a personal insight to show them that you get then, not that you just know random tips and tricks or that you're just spitting out information that every other content creator, educator spits out. And that is one thing. I'll be looking at posts and they will be regurgitating the same information that another person posted.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the time that's because people are, especially new to content creation, they're going as broad as possible because people have this feeling, and I'm talking to a past version and sometimes current version of myself right now as well, of, well, I want this to apply to everybody. And so if I get specific with it, I feel like I'm going to be alienating people or something or other like that. But the truth is you need to get specific and give those specific examples so people can see themselves in what you're teaching, what you're talking about, because I forget who it was that said it exactly, but I'm sure you've heard it a million times too. But if you want people to think you're smart, then make them understand something. But if you want them to buy something and take action, make them feel like you understand them. So.
Yeah, exactly. And so many people, right? It's just generic tips and tricks. Like you follow an Instagram growth account. It's like trending audio alert or new Instagram advice. And so you're just regurgitating information. Take some pieces of your framework of what you know, what you have gotten results from, and educate on that. So people see that and they're like, okay, this person actually knows their stuff. They're not just repeating every single piece of information that they've ever learned on the internet, right? Because people are drowning in information, but they are starving for guidance and clarity. Okay. So when you are creating your educational posts, keep that in mind. The goal is to shift beliefs and build trust. And that is what turns casual scrollers into people that will actually pay you.
Thanks for sharing that. All right, we got 2 more to get into.
So all 3 of these I did so wrong for so long, which is why I emphasize them so much.
And just to hop in here for a second, a lot of people, when her business took off, it was like, oh, she came out of nowhere and had all this success really, really quickly. But the truth is, how long were you creating content and stuff before that initial thing happened? It was like the overnight success, but after how long?
3 years.
3 years, then overnight success.
3 years, 3 different businesses. I spent 2 years trying to grow an Instagram account for my chiropractic business.
Yeah.
Was shit. Tried to then become a skincare influencer. Was shit. Started my digital marketing.
Skin
Started my digital marketing business and made my first $1 million in 7 months. Okay. But it was those 3 years of trial and error that I learned how to create content that actually converts into sales. And so one of the most powerful things that I learned when I started this digital marketing journey was I knew about education at that point. I was posting the right types of educational content, and I wasn't seeing the sales yet. And so I went back and I looked at the profile of the girl who inspired me to get started. And I looked at her profile and she had some educational posts on there, which was great. And it made me trust her. But what made me buy from her was her story. I felt so inspired. Okay, so this is what brings us into this second category of content is inspirational content. But a lot of people think they need to share their story. Look what I did. Look what I did. Look what I did.
Yeah.
But it's really about the shift in identity. It's really about saying, here's where I was. Here's who I was. Here's who I am now. You can become this person too.
So you're not saying that it's posting the same quotes everybody does. That's like, you can do anything you set your mind to. That's not what we're talking about?
That's not what we're talking about at all.
Okay. Glad we're clarifying here.
No. You need your audience to resonate with that before version of you so that they can feel inspired, that they can become this after version of you, this version of you that you can help them get to. And sharing that builds emotional readiness. Okay, so most of you guys know people are not logical buyers. They're emotional buyers, right? And so what that means is people don't just buy when they're ready, right? It's not just when the time is right, when their finances are right. It's when they feel ready. And so when people feel like buying, they no longer have that resistance, right? So another way that we can phrase this, that we can talk about inspirational content being beneficial is that it removes resistance. So people start seeing themselves in your story. They start to be inspired that they can do this too. When they start to doubt, well, is this for me? What if I fail? What if it's not real? When they see your story and they see themselves in your story, it shows them what's possible and they start to have that belief in themselves.
So people don't buy when they understand. They buy when they believe. And inspirational content, that is how you give them that belief, not just in you, but in themselves.
Okay, so that brings us to our third type of content that people either do way too much in the very, very wrong way, or they don't do it all, okay? And that is promotional content. All right, hear me out. Hear me out. I'm not saying buy my stuff, okay? Promotional content isn't pushy. It's permission. It gives your audience context. What the offer is, who it helps, what kind of results it can create. Think of it like inviting someone in, not pressuring them to buy. Okay, so the first time that I realized how important this was we landed the educational piece, we landed the inspirational piece, sales were picking up, but they still were not consistent in where I wanted them to be. And I followed this creator who was making thousands and thousands of dollars a day. And I felt like all she did was talk about her offer. And I'm like, all she does is talk about her offer. And then I'm like, oh, talk about your offer. So I started following the way that she did it and sales picked up. And then I started learning more and more about my audience and what resonated. And I broke down my particular way of formulating promotional posts, and they picked up even further, okay? And a promotional post does three things. It calls out a specific pain point or desire so the right people feel seen and stop scrolling.
And this is really important because if you're anything like me, I have a tendency to just launch right into a solution for something, but people need to emotionally connect with it first and understand, why is this important? If you just go right into solve mode, people don't know what you're even solving for. So like, you need to call out what they're thinking, what they're feeling, then they perk up. And when you describe that in the way that's in their head, they're already primed for thinking that you know how to solve it or what the next step is, which is amazing.
And so that being said, the next step is your offer. And this is where you introduce your offer as the bridge. This is where you're going to show them how your offer helps get them what they want without all the struggle that they think they have to have in order to get there. Okay, and then you're just going to end it with a clear and very aligned call to action. Invite them to that next step, whether it's to comment a keyword, to DM you, to apply to work with you. There's a few other ways that you can do this as well. You can highlight a personal result or a client result and explain how you got it so that people are like, wow, you got this amazing result and you know the solution. I want to work with you, right? You're bridging, working with you as the solution. Paint the dream outcome, show how your offer makes it possible. You can share what your offer looks like behind the scenes. The goal isn't to convince people here, it's to create clarity. You're not on a sales call, you're not twisting arms. This is just a piece of content, okay? And you just need to let people be aware that you are the person who solves their problems. And people don't buy when they're confused, okay? They buy when they are understood and they buy when they are invited. Mm-hmm. So don't ever stop talking about your offer. But don't be like one of those people that post links to their stories every day. Buy, right? You need to make them feel understood. You need to paint that picture.
You do it in a way that you're the solution to their problem, not that they are the solution to your problem of not having enough sales. And that's what it comes across like when you don't do it. How she's describing right now. And that's why those don't result in sales. So
exactly. And then for those of you who are afraid of putting your offer out, because that's a huge thing that we hear from our clients all the time.
Yep.
If you don't promote, they won't know. You can be the most helpful, inspiring creator on the planet, but without promotional posts, your business stays invisible. Okay, being subtle isn't strategic, it is self-sabotage.
If I don't know what pain point you solve, I don't know that you can help me.
Yeah. And sales is service. And if you don't believe in your product wholeheartedly, it's time to rethink your product. Mm-hmm. If you know that your offer can provide a life-changing or valuable solution for your client, you should be proud to present it to them. So if you're sitting here thinking, okay, I get it, but how do I actually rotate these three pieces of content without burning out and without second guessing every post? That's what we teach inside Consistent Cash Insiders. We teach you how to prep, to plan, to batch, and to create content consistently that turns viewers into buyers. So if you want help doing this faster and easier with our eyes on your content, DM me the keyword content. Okay, we're going to drop a link below so you can just click on it. It'll bring you directly up to my Instagram DMs and you can DM me right there.
Okay, so to tie all of this together, there's something that we tell our clients, and that's to think of your content like a three-legged stool. If you take one leg away, it's going to tip over. And that's what most people are doing. They're either showing up with value, but there's no invitation to the next step. Maybe they're sharing their story, but they're never teaching. Or worse, they're only doing the buy, promoting, and they're just wondering why nobody's paying attention, nobody's listening, nobody cares. But when you rotate these three types of content with intention, that's when everything shifts. And I think that is the big secret for you after you had been having no traction for 3 years and suddenly things took off. That's what you figured out.
I have goosebumps. This is so powerful. It's so powerful, right? It is. And it's so true, right? When you have all three pieces together, you stop guessing, you start leading, and your content finally starts doing the job that it was meant to do, which was not to turn you into an influencer. Okay. It was to turn this attention into income.
So you might be asking, now what? What would you suggest people do to implement this?
Okay, so what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to go look at your last 9 posts. Okay, that should be a good average of what kind of content you've been posting. And think about it. Are you only teaching? Are you only sharing your story? Are you only promoting? Because if one leg of that stool is missing, that is why your content is not converting. But you don't have to figure it out alone, okay? If you want our eyes on your content strategy, if you want help building the kind of content that brings in qualified leads every single day, that's exactly what we do inside CCI, okay? So click the link below, DM me the word content, and I will tell you if it's a fit. And if it is, we'll get you moving fast.
Looking forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.